There is a lot going on right now in the Middle East with Israel and the neighboring nations around it. And I have a lot of friends, including a lot of ex-Jehovah's Witness friends, who really are on the side of Israel. And they believe that this is prophetic. And I want to talk about that tonight because it's something that is really, really angering the hell out of me. First off, I think that, simply put, you support murderers and terrorists if you support Israel. So, they try to paint everyone who doesn't support Israel as some kind of a terrorist, but really, we just don't like killing. So, I want to get into a lot of why people think that and why I don't think that. I do not believe that the God of the Bible is on the side of Israel, blowing the shit out of their neighbors. And I'm going to go over why. So, brought out my Bible tonight. For all you Jehovah's Witnesses out there, this is my Bible that I had even when I was a witness. I'm sure you guys recognize this. I'm going to be quoting from the New World Translation tonight. But I think you can use just about any Bible to negate pretty much everything that we think we're seeing that's going on with Israel and its neighboring nations right now. So, yeah, this is my Bible that I've had for a long time. I'm actually very sentimentally attached to it. I love this old thing, even though I'm not much of a believer anymore. So, all my old artwork, highlighted in all the right places. So, I got some bullet points that I want to go over. Had to write it all down because it's really a lot, and I don't even know where the hell to begin with just how much I feel like what's going on in Israel right now is just absolute horrific bullshit. And we need to all really think about it. And I think that we should talk about it because people are dying right now. That's really the point here. People are dying. Women, children, infants, on both sides. Whether you support Israel or whether you support Palestine, they're dying. And so this is really something we really, really, really need to think about before we rally to the side of either. So, Zionists are the people who basically believe that the God of the Bible, Yahweh, backs Israel. And I don't believe this to be true at all. They believe that these things that are happening are part of prophecy. And I want to talk about why I don't believe that. So I'm going to go right into the Bible. Matthew chapter 24. If you are a Jehovah's Witness or ex-Jehovah's Witness, you know all about this scripture. So you probably know where I'm going with this when it comes to that. So, Matthew chapter 24, and let's talk about verse 14. So Matthew 24, 14. And this good news of the kingdom will be preached in all the inhabited earth for a witness to all the nations, and then the end will come. All right, so that's one of the first things right there that makes me feel that it's not prophetic. Because if it was prophetic, the good news would be being preached in all the inhabited earth. We don't see that, though, in a modern society. Do we? No. I mean, if we non-Christians and Christians are really being honest here, we're actually seeing the opposite. Christianity is actually a dying movement. It's continuing to disappear. It damn sure isn't being preached in all the inhabited earth, and it's just continuing to fade away. So I think that we would see way more action, especially on that end, if this was truly, truly prophetic. Another thing, too, is that if you look in Matthew chapter 27, I'm going to read starting at verse 51. Starting at 51, it says, "And look, the curtain of the sanctuary was rent in two from top to bottom, and the earth quaked, and the rock masses were split, and the memorial tombs were opened, and many bodies of the holy ones who had fallen asleep, were raised up. And persons coming out from among the memorial tombs after his being raised up entered into the holy city, and they became visible to many people. But the army officer and those with him, watching over Jesus, when they saw the earthquake and the things happening, grew very much afraid, saying, 'Certainly this was God's Son.'" Now, we as witnesses and a lot of Christians always interpreted that to mean that basically, because they killed God's Son, or God, however you want to look at it, because they killed Jesus basically, that God rejected Israel, which is why he allowed them to be completely destroyed, not a stone being left upon a stone at the Israel temple. So that doesn't really sound like a nation that's being packed by God at this point. And furthermore, the book of Matthew was most likely not even written by Matthew or a Matthew. Most scholars think that it was written about, I'd say, 30 or 40 years after the fact. It was written anywhere from about 65 to 70 CE. So there really wasn't any eyewitnesses, especially given that the average lifespan in that area was about 42 years old. I mean, if you were lucky, you might live to be in your 50s. So there is no first-hand account even there. So it's invalidated on at least two fronts. So then a lot of my Christian friends also want to reference Revelation 14. And Revelation 14 has a lot of symbolism in it. You can read that yourself, honestly. To me, it doesn't make any sense. And if you don't understand it, it's not because you don't understand it. It's because it genuinely makes absolutely no sense. Sorry about that. Ambulance rolling by our police. But anyway, Revelation doesn't really make any sense. Revelation 14 does not really apply to what is going on in Israel at all whatsoever. None of it does. None of it does. And to go even further with that, Revelation wasn't even written till around, I think, 90 or 95 CE. So John, if he even existed, didn't even write it. It's all secondhand information and sensational that can't be proven in reality. And at the very best, it's vague. Now, Bible prophecies often aren't vague. Look at Daniel. It was written very specifically talking about the gates of Babylon being opened, left open. But even that is supposedly written after the fact. I guess my point is that they couldn't tell you exacts because they did not have them, because they were not inspired, because they did not know. You're connecting dots that aren't there if you believe in this stuff. And these dots don't really exist. It's subject to so much interpretation that you can basically twist it any way that you want. And if Jesus was coming back, it wouldn't take him 2,000 years to do so. He's not coming back. There isn't going to be any kind of a return. And even if he did, it would be so indistinguishable that there would be no doubt or dispute about it. God doesn't need a book to talk to his people. He could do that any way that he wanted to. And even if he wrote a book, he wouldn't have imperfect men constantly misinterpret it, make it so ambiguous that you can't understand it, and it'd be subject to so many mistakes and errors that we don't even know what the meaning of it was. And he definitely wouldn't have secondhand people from 70 CE, 95 CE, write it when it could have been first-hand information. So there's so many reasons to not believe this. But there is a lot of reasons to believe that Israel capitalized on this because of oil and used their divine backing to justify killing whoever it was on their land. And I think that that's a very, very unloving gesture. I mean, we came out of a cult where we felt justified letting people die and not caring about them at Armageddon, with birds eating their eyes out, eating their flesh. If you got disfellowshipped, you deserve to die. This is the same thing. We're out of one cult and right into another cult because now so many people believe that Israel is backed by God. Well, if it was backed by God, then you wouldn't need missiles and guns to protect it. You wouldn't need to kill children and families to protect it, would you? And if you believe in that sort of thing, then you really need to ask yourself how good of a person you are morally, if you can condone that sort of thing. Because in my opinion, that makes you a pretty fucking big piece of shit, in my opinion, if you think that somehow it's okay because of God's backing to kill infants, women, and children. Kind of reminds me of that scripture in 2 Samuel where God tells Israel to go out and kill the Amalekites and to kill their women, children, infants, and all of that good stuff. That doesn't sound loving at all. That doesn't sound sane. Anybody who read that today in our secular world would call you a ruthless, serial-killing bastard. They wouldn't think anything of you. They would think you're sick and you need to be locked up for enforcing such primal, primitive brutality. So I have a real problem with my Christian friends saying, I stand with Israel. If you stand with Israel, then you stand with a bunch of lies in a book written by imperfect men who promoted a lot of lies, who themselves didn't even write the stuff, who just put names to it to try to make it more valid when it isn't. And you support a bunch of murder and genocide, period. You can justify it any way that you want, but you're a fucking piece of shit terrorist if you support that, period, point blank. And you're also wrong and deluded. Prove me wrong. I'd be happy to debate with any of you anytime. I would love to debate with any of you anytime. And I guarantee you, and I bet you won't do it. Because you're fucking cowards hiding behind this belief that the killing and murder of those Palestinians, or anybody for that matter. I mean, if it was Jews getting massacred like this, I would say the same exact thing. That's what you support. That's what you're supporting. If God wanted to protect Israel, he's powerful enough, he could do that. He doesn't need men to do that for him. So, let's see. In Matthew chapter 24, a lot of people will say that it's literal, and then on the points that are really vague, they'll try to say, well, that's symbolic. And that kind of goes back to what we believed as Jehovah's Witnesses anyway, right? I mean, where do they get to decide that the 144,000 are literal, but the other stuff around it is symbolic? Who gets to decide what is literal and what is symbolic here? That kind of sounds like bullshit to me too. So, Israel was rejected. It was written 60 years after the fact, Matthew. I believe that people who support Israel are justifying cruelty and genocide. Jesus ain't coming back. He's been gone for thousands of years. Most people and scholars today don't even think that he ever existed and that he was based on legends like Hercules, demigods. things that were popular at the time that would have gotten people to follow your cause at the time. So you're not supporting believers, you're supporting murderers. And believing that God is backing Israel makes you feel justified in believing that it's okay to kill all these people, which makes you a fucking indoctrinated piece of shit, murdering, supporting son of a bitch. And I believe that the whole thing is motivated by entitlement and profit and oil. So that's really all that I had to say on that. It's just I really had to get on here because I am seeing so many of my Zionist, Israel supporting friends think that somehow this is divine, and there is nothing in the Bible but vagaries written after the fact by people who are anonymous to verify that. That's all that they have to stand on. From a book that is dying because of its hatred, misogyny, brutality, promotion of slavery. I mean, need I really go on? I mean, does it really take a scholar to see how fucked up morally the Bible is and the people who believe it and the shit that they believe? I mean, go read 2 Kings. 2 Kings, where they talk about the Amalekites. That doesn't make you want to close the book right there. Then you, my friend, are indoctrinated. And like I said, I challenge all of my Christian friends. You fucking coward, pussy sons of bitches. I challenge you to debate with me on this about how Israel is backed by God. Because they say they are, because they have missiles to blow the fuck out of everyone. When it's all about oil. Show me how that's godly, let alone Christian. I dare you. I fucking dare you. Pull the fucking cotton out of your ears. So, hope everyone else has a good evening. That's really all I have to say about that. And any of you Christian Zionist friends of mine who would like to challenge me to a respectful debate, because I will debate you respectfully. I won't be mean, I won't be vicious towards you, but I will be passionate and express what I believe. Anyone who wants to challenge me on this level, which you never do, bring it on.